Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on this beautiful sunny Saturday morning. And the weather is getting better, so that's a good news. We are waiting for a few more minutes to see if we have more people joining us today. My name is Mohit. Thank you so much. I used to work with DoSpace as a community learning specialist. Now I work with UNO as a technical consultant, and I have quite a good experience with coding. I have worked with some software companies like Dell, HCL, IBM, and now I work as an instructional designer, technical consultant with University of Nebraska, Omaha. Thank you so much for joining us. We have Kafaya with us. She works as a community learning specialist at DoSpace, and she also a student at UNO, and she is learning Python nowadays. So I hope she can do us a good session of Python sometime. Thank you so much. We have someone for Philippines. Well, thank you so much for joining, Phil Moore David, if I'm saying your name correct. Thank you so much for joining us from there. And we welcome you to Do Space Omaha. I hope you will get something nice from this webinar. So as we know from the introduction that we are going to touch base some of the basics of C++. We are not going into too many details. This is a very basic introduction course, as the name says. So before we begin, I would, request to all of you to just write me in the chat box in one liner. Are you a beginner with C++? Do you have any experience with C++? Or if you know any other language? That will help me to understand where my audience is coming from and what thing I need to explain more. I see some messages popping up already. Thank you so much. And before we go ahead and start this, and meanwhile, as I'm waiting for people to write their answers in the chat box, I would like to say that at any point of time, if you want me to ask any question, you can write us in the chat box or in question and answer session. Kafaya is the facilitator for this webinar. She's going to help me with all the information if people have any questions, and hopefully we can answer that for you. We have a message from Abhishek Bajracharya. Gail, beginner. Good morning, everyone from Philippines. Thank you so much. Oh, we have another person from Philippines. Thank you so much. I have a message that someone knows Java, but not C++. They're kind of similar in a way. You will see some similarities as we go forward, but totally C++ is more on mathematical logics. And we have so many people from Philippines. Well, welcome to all of you. Thank you so much. I hope you will get something good information. And we have someone from Sri Lanka. Wow, seems to be a pretty diverse audience. I had people from India, Nepal before this, and from Chicago, Hawaii. And since we have been doing our classes online, we have seen people from a lot of different places, different backgrounds and ethnicity. Well, thank you so much, all of you. Also, I'm taking your greetings. Also, please keep writing me. Are you a beginner? If you know any other language, and we are going to start pretty soon in 1 or 2 minutes. Thank you so much for all of you. As I said earlier, I'll just say for people who joined us right now, my name is Mohit. I used to be a community learning specialist at DoSpace. Now I work with the University of Nebraska, Omaha as a technical consultant. I have a good experience with coding. I have worked with some of the software companies, big names like Dell, IBM, HCL. Thank you so much for all joining us. And for the new people, I would like to repeat this, that we are looking forward for chat messages from people to let me know about how much they know about C++, or they are beginner, they are trying it for the first time, or if they know any other language. Perfect. And we have someone from Denmark. Well, thank you so much. Nora Ali. I have a very good friend from Denmark. She used to be my, cohort at University of Nebraska Lincoln, and she was amazing. I still speak to her sometimes. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Everyone, we have Ankusha, if I'm saying it right, pronouncing it right. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and get started. Well, see, we are going to. So, what are we going to talk about today? So, I'm just give you an overview before we start. We are going to talk about what is C++, why C++ is different, why people choose C++ over C, and how it has been different from C. And in the world of all the fancy languages, Python, R, and other languages, other application-based languages, WordPress, why people still choose C++? What is the reason that this language, which started in 1980s as an extension of C language, how it is still holding on to the roots, and why it is important to learn C++ and to develop some of the programs in C++. Well, welcome again. We are going to get started. We have almost 40 people here. Thank you so much. Just let me, yeah. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me go to the next slide here. So I have a presentation ready for you, and then also I'm going to show you some of the software where you can run the code, and I'm going to give you some of the examples, and we're going to talk about syntax and other things about C++. So as I said, a few minutes ago, that C++ started in 1980s as an extension of C language. So C language even started before this, and there's a very good gentleman who started this. I can't remember the name, but you can pretty sure Google it and see who started this. So he started this language as an extension of C++. Why? Because C language had some of the limitations. Because C language was not completely compiler based, and the library was limited, and it was not pretty much it was object oriented, but not to the level what we wanted. And it also has more features to pointer and loops, uh, other than more than C language. I'm going to explain all of these for a few minutes, so that we can get a hold of what is the language and how it's different. So rich library means a library means a collection of, as we know, collection of books or collection of anything. So C++ has a rich library. It means that it has a more collection of variables, integers, more data operations, more loop operations. What we used to do in C language. So you write a code, basically. If I talk about in layman language, you write a code, then you click on run output. That code runs in the background of computer language, and then it gives you the result. We are going to see some of the live examples how to run code, how to write code in few minutes. But this is just for basic understanding. So C++ has a rich library, which means it has more approach, more accessible to more integer functions, more number functions, more variables, more logical operations, and all those information more than C language. So if I go a step back to explain you what are coding languages and what is also a basis of C and C++, it means that you write a code on your computer in a language which is understandable to you, which is called human language. And then this language is this language gets compiled by computer with a compiler. We're going to see some example about compiler and what compilers are. So that changed language into a binary languages. As we know, as most of us know, or maybe I'm going to say that, anyways, that computer cannot read the language what we talk about. So human have a different language. Every species may have a different languages. There are more researches. I'm not going to go there. but computer works in binary languages. So it only talks about it operates, it do all of its operations in binary languages, which is 1010. As we know, binary is 10. So what these languages, C and C++ languages does, they have a file in the computer center which is going to compile the code that we write into a program, into compile it into basic binary languages 1010, and they do the operation at the background in the computer, and they give the output to us. So we can see output, but computer does all the operation. They do it into binary languages, and they give us answers in the human languages. So that's why we call it compiler based language. So it compiles all the operation in binary languages and compiles the information, compiles the data, and give us a result. So I talked about rich library. I talked about compiler based. Object oriented is something that needs more explanation. So I have a next slide with object oriented. So just we can just leave it for a minute here. And recursion is something. Recursion is something that you can connect to the memory of your information, and that you can go back to that information and again. So why C++ is used to write huge programs, huge languages, computer applications, phone development, phone development and other applications. So as you may have seen in some of your application that you use on your Android or Apple phone, it saves your data, it saves your information, what are you going to write, and it puts it into the memory. That's the meaning of the recursion. So when it saves the information in your memory, it can just go back and it can bring all that information back to the coding program that we are doing. That's the meaning of recursion. Pointers, loop, and other thing is variable. So loop is something we are going to do the same operation again and again. For example, if I'm going to make a program of adding a number 5 to an integer, and I want to keep repeating this program until I get 100 or any big number that I want to. So I can put that program in the loop. We're going to see that in a minute, how to do that, about the coding. So I'm just talking about the theory and basic a little bit here before we go ahead and understand more things. So that's to call the loop, doing the same thing again and again. So there could be a program which says choose an integer, add 5 to it, and then we can put this in the loop. You can, let's say, so I can write a program, let's say choose a number, add 5 to it, and then keep adding until we get 100. So for example, if I choose 5, it's going to add 5, 10, 15. So it's going to keep adding all the information until I get the 100. So those programs, those small coding programs are called loops. And pointers is when you have to point a specific value to some information. For example, if you have to, let's say there's a program that I'm going to write, print my age, and point age to the variable that is entered. So if I enter 33, it's going to give me an answer as 33 because I have added integer 33 as age in the program. So if I'm going to use that further, I can use that, just write a code, age plus 15, age plus, multiplied this thing. So that is going to where recursion is going to come into play, and it's just going to keep remembering the memory that I choose age as an integer and which value is 33. So folks, these are very important concepts before we go ahead. So just give a few minutes to yourself and try to reiterate in your mind, and make sure you understand that's very important. And then, as I said earlier, I'm going to talk about object oriented in the next slide here. Let me go back, the next. So I have an image for object oriented programming. Is why it's what does it mean? So you put everything into a classification, a broad classification, and then you put them as an. So you just you define that in your library, in your program before you write the code. So for example, if you have humans, if you have animals, if you have more things like this. You can put them in a class feature. Objects, if you have name, address, data, mailing address, phone number, you can put them in the object. And then if you want to make another feature which is properties, so you can have email address, methods is verify. So you can basically classify things into big objects, and then those objects help you to remember that in your coding program that they have been saved with a specific value, and then how you are going to get the answers for those. So very important concept to understand this, and this is also the reason why we choose C++. And it has been with us from a very long time, maybe all of my lifetime, or maybe before that, I would say. But people still, but it's a very still a very powerful language, and many companies, many corporates, they still prefer to use C++ to make web applications, phone applications, simple programmings, big programming, big code programmings, and for other things. It is not used for web designing. If you guys, some of the beginners, they were writing me that they know website building and all those things. It's totally different. The reason is because you cannot design website. HTML is one of the powerful language where you design your web programming, your web pages, and WordPress is the newest one. It has been in the market for a long time now. It comes with a template and drag and drop. We also do classes for HTML and WordPress. If you want, you can join us. You can see our calendar and you can join us, and then you can see how they are different and how they're going to be, have different answers and all those things. So let's go forward. And as I said, at any point of time, if you have any questions, please write me in the question answer session or in the chat option. So the first thing would be, if you want to learn C++, it's a very important to set up a coding environment. You have to write code, and then you have to run code, and your code is going to answer the code answer for you, the answer for code for you, the output, we can say it, output, we say that in the coding environment that we use. So you can use any, there are so many, multiple coding environments you can use. There are so many in the market, and most of them, they are freely available. I personally like Visual Studio Code and Sublime Text. I'm going to show them both of you, and show you how they work. And Kafaya can write us this link. This is the link for https code.visual Studio. So she can write us a link in the chat box. So if you have this link, you don't have to worry. Just click on the link. If you want to install it, it is going to take some time. So you may not want to do it now, but you can do it later. So I'm going to show you how does it look and everything. So you click on this link, and it gives you an option to what kind of operating system you are using. So if you are using, Mac, Windows, it's going to ask you. So you click on that link, click on, next, install, download the application, install the application, and it's gonna ask you some things. So you have to be very careful when you choose them. C++, Java. So Visual Studio is something you can run any operation in that. So I have a question from Anushka Chaturanga. Why Visual Studio is very slow compared to Visual Studio Code? Okay, so that is kind of a tangent, but I'll answer you as you asked. So Visual Studio is, the first thing is it's a very big software. It is like take a lot of memory on your computer, and it takes a lot of time to install if you have done it. And also Visual Studio, I mean, that's one of the basic reason, because every time you work on that, it has to go through all the files and compile information and answer. So it takes a lot of time, and it's slower than Visual Studio. And then the other reason is in Visual Studio you can write code in more languages than Visual Studio Code, like .NET, and so many more. So it makes it slower to compile information because it has more big library and all those informations. I had that on my computer too, but I uninstalled it because I don't code in that. And as you gave the answer, it's slower than the Visual Studio. It's a very big language. And it's a very big software, and it takes a lot of time to install too. Okay, so that was the answer to Anushka's questions. So I'm going to show you Visual Studio Code before we go ahead. So I installed that on my computer already, and this is Visual Studio Code page look like. If you that's the welcome page. As you can see that there's an option start file, and there's a color theme. There are more settings. We're going to spend some time here and to understand the interface, and you can see the tool and languages installed support for. You can install JavaScript, Python, and you can write more languages. And then there's a shortcut to Sublime. We're going to talk about this is Sublime text look like this. So you can buy Sublime text, but you can also use free version. But just going to say unregistered here. I just use free version, but if you want, you can. As I said, you can pay. I don't know how much is it. I don't remember, but you can pay and you can get more features and install it. Okay, so let's go back to the. So this is the new file after you install, after you check up all this check boxes for what you need and all information. Then you get to this page. It's called Welcome Visual Studio Code. And thank you so much for your question, Anushka, to tell people that this is different than Visual Studio. Visual Studio is a big software. It just install on your computer pretty much in a similar way, but you can do more things, and it has more library and all other information. Okay, so after you get to here, the most important thing is to go extensions. The first thing that you would like to do is you click on extension, and you want to make sure that you install these two extensions on your computer in order to run C++ and C on your computer. So it's not like when you have Visual Studio Code, you just write the code and it's just gonna work for you. No, you have to install these two specific extensions. They call extensions here, and you will see that this extension is globally, and these are free, so you don't have to worry about everything that I will talk about in this seminar is free, because I can understand some people, they would like to learn things, but money can be a barrier sometimes. So I'm going to talk about every software open educational resources, which means they are freely available online. I don't know about Philippines, and because I haven't tried from there, if that doesn't work, but here they are freely available, and I believe they will be freely available globally also. So you install this. See, it says disable uninstall option here, code runner, disable uninstall option here. So when you are going to install it for the first time, you are going to write in the search extension. You are going to see this window, pretty much similar window, but you will see option here which will say install. This is not showing you install option right now. Why? Pretty simple, because I have already installed it. So if you want, I have mentioned this in the presentation also. What are the extension that is going to be required? If you want, you can email us later, and Kafaya will provide you a copy of the presentation, so you don't have to remember. You can just go through and see all the information here. So let me go back here to Visual Code. Yeah, so after I install this information, after I install this, I would be able to run the code. So you have to worry about these two. And then, and then there's another, answer to Anushka's questions is in the Visual Studio, you don't have to install, you can just choose the language and you can write it. So that's also make it, a bit bulkier environment and application that takes a lot of time and it's slow. Okay, so after you install all this, and then you will see, let me go back to my projects here. Yeah, so see, I have, if I click here, this will show me installed and recommended, and you will see there are in the recommended, there are more options here, and then VS database, SQL if I want to use SQL here, debugger for Firefox, and so many other informations here. So let's talk about this interface. So the first thing that you will see about interface is the option on the top. So it says file, edit, selection, view, go, run, terminal, help. So the most important that you are going to work with is file. So under when you click on file, you will see uh, new file, new window, open file, and save and all those information here. The most important thing to here is also to understand is when you build a program. So whenever so for let me open a new one for you. So if I click a new file here, see it opened a new file for me and it named it untitled tool. So it's just going to name it by itself, and it's very important for you to save the file and name it. This is very important, guys, because the reason is if you are just keep working on projects and if you're not saving your files, you will, and you work on multiple projects, by the end of the day or by the end of the week or by the end of the month, you will not be able to distinguish which one is which. You will not be able to differentiate. So very important. I will show you how to name. So I named one of the, so whatever you write a code here, and then you just go to file and save, click on save. So this is going to save your file. So I have saved this file like demo1, as you can see, and this is going to show you a path where this file is going to save. So see, this is a path for C. If I go to C drive on my computer, go to users, go to Mohit, my folder, go to source, go to repos, and then I have saved this file under a folder which is project1, and name of my file is demo1. Very important, folks. And you are going to give this path. This folder is going to created by itself when you will install the application. And after you install the application, it's going to save all of your files at the same folder with the name which you are going to choose when you click on save as or save. Click on save as, and then name the file. I'm pretty sure most of us we know that when we save a file on your computer, we just click on save as, or Microsoft Word is a very good example that we do. So that's a very how to save this file, very important, folks. So make sure you save the file, and then you click on run the file. So run the code option is here. We're going to talk about it in a minute. Run the code. See, as you can see my screen, run code, and there's also a shortcut Control Alt and N. I don't remember, shortcuts. That would be too much for me to remember, but there's an option here. Just click on run, and it is going to show you output here at the bottom screen. Do you see? There's an option problems. So let's talk about more interface, problem, output, debug, terminal. So we talk about file option. That is the most thing that you're going to use. Save, new, edit is like more options here. Undo, cut, copy, paste. You can see more options here. And then selection is if you want to select all and move line up. This is going to be helpful for you when you are going to be a little bit more efficient, not beginner, and then you're going to see that you write a code for big pages, and then you're going to use these options from here. And pretty much about view also, when you need more extensions, add extensions, go. Run is this is also when you are going to write more codes and all those things. So most of them, they are going to help you when you have more big code. And there's also online help with tips and tricks, and Joyce, go to your social media and all those kind of things here. So so let's go ahead and talk about, we talked about extensions here, and this is also a run option for run the code. If you want to run if this is for run the project, if you want to run the project, so what let me tell you one more thing before I go further. So what happens in C++ when you work on applications, you develop applications, phone applications, computer applications, what you do is you build them in the parts. You do not build them as one code. And also it's also very important when you work in team. So for example, Kafaya Anushka and we are working on a project and we have a certain part to make that project for. So we build our own parts and then we combine them and then we run them from here as a project. So that's also one of the things that you would like to do later in the future. So so let's go ahead and run this code. Uh, let's go ahead and I have just written few we are going to talk about code and more syntax in a minute. So just think about, I have just written a small code and I want to run this code. I'm going to click on this run option and then it will say, see it is I am on output here. So there are more options. We are just talking about the interface of Visual Studio here. So there are four options at the bottom. Output. So this is under output. I can see that running. So this is the file again that ran from my location of the project where I have saved my file. That's very important. If you do not save file, it's not going to run for you. As simple as that. Write the code, go to file, save, and this path is going to be asked from you and created. Some of it creates by itself when you install the software. So see, I have written a program, include IO stream. You will see some options here, and they will be like gibberish for you. Use like what are these? But we're going to talk about all of them in a few minutes here. Just think here, just look here, which says count hello world, and it says return 0. Just understand about this. So count is something you can say print. So whenever you want to print something as an output, you use this. There are more applications of this, but that's for advanced level. So when you see, so basically I am writing a small program, and this is going to tell you here how many lines are these, how many go to columns are these. So it's just going to tell you everything, space, and then every information here. So so just look at this count hello world. So I have just written I have just written a small program to print hello world. So when I clicked on this play code here, option run code here, I can see the output running. This code running when it gives running hello world, it gave me this, and then done. Code is done, exited with the code 0 in 1.886 seconds. So this gives you a time, how much time it takes to run the code, and return 0 is to finish the code. Return 0 is just give the output and finish the program. So and if I want to write something else, for example, if I want to I want to use this as a program to write whatever. So I'm gonna write my name, and then I'm just gonna click run code again, and then I'm gonna then you're gonna see it did not give me Mohit answer here, and I also change the name here. If you guys are following me, can you answer me in the chat box? Why did it not write Mohit instead of hello world? I'm just gonna, yes, perfect, yes. Thank you so much. That's the right answer from Kelela, and I can't read other names. Yes, because I didn't save it. Yes, so I have to go here, file, and save this file. After I save this file, this is going to save my code in the file that I was writing. So after I save the code, I save the code. Now if I'm gonna run, yes, that's the right answer. Save. Yeah, so after I run this, it's gonna give me the answer. So that's a very good answer, and I also, and it's a very good point to understand in C++ language. Every time you run the code, it doesn't depend on how long or how short is the code. You have to save the file, um, when you run the code before you are running the code, and it can be different. It is different in HTML. We do not save the code. It's just change. We just click on change and it changes, and some other languages so. And then this is a very good tip. Please note it down that you have to save. And then one very other good thing that I want to show you here is that about this here. Do you see my screen? I am at the bottom right. Yes, Anushka, I'm just talking about the same thing here. Very good question. That was the next thing that I'm going to talk about. So when you write the code, you have to choose a specific environment in which you are running the code. So Visual Studio Code, as we saw in the beginning, it's for so many different languages, correct? How Visual Studio Code is going to know that I am running code in C, C++, Java, Python? How? So that is very important point here. And like 80% of the, I would more than 80%, 85% of the beginners, they do this mistake and they take a lot of time to figure out where to find that information and how to do. It is on your right hand side bottom here where it says C++. Do you see that? Select language mode. Very important folks for this is very important folks for Visual Studio Code if you are using Visual Studio Code. So you have to click on this language and it is going to ask you what language is I am going to choose to run my code into. See, very important. So this is how you let Visual Studio Code know that I am writing code in C++ or Java or Python, and please, run my code according to this. And what happens when you see there are more options here? Can you see there are more options here? So I'm going to ask you one other, a very important question. So there's also plain text. Plain text is selected by default. So whenever you write in the plain text, and then we change it to a whatever language that I want to. Now I'm going to ask you one very important question here. So, and I hope you can answer me correct. So for example, if I want to choose JavaScript, if I choose JavaScript here from the select language mode, and also I write code in Java and I run the code, do you think I'm going to is the Visual Studio Code is going to run code in Java? What do you think? So I'll repeat my question. So I just showed you how to change language from here. So I change language from, see, I can change language mode from here. So I have C++ selected now. So for example, if I want to write a code in Java, so if I select from Java here or any other language, let's say HTML, Java, JavaScript. So I select from here and I write my code in Java. I write my code Java in C++ here and I click on run code. Is it going to run my code? I have some answers here. I'm curious to see. Yes. This person, I can see the whole name. Lorenzo Ward, you have got the right answer. Don't you have to download the extension Freds? Yes, my friend, that's the correct answer. As I showed you in the beginning, you have to install a specific extension to run a specific programs. Very good. I like that answer. So that was the correct answer. And like as I said, when I was a beginner, and most of the people they make this mistake. For example, I know HTML and I'm trying Visual Studio, and I just like, okay, let's do this, and it doesn't work, and I was like, oh, why it's not happening? So very important thing here to go to this right point and choose whatever language you have and make sure you have the installer for that. And sometime also this will give you notifications here. So this is like a bell icon as we see on YouTube channels and other information notifications. So this is going to give you notification that your installer is ready to update or update available. Please always say yes so that it can install the update. This just helps you to have you the latest update and it updates for you. Sorry. Let me see. I have a question here. So Anushka, I hope I answered your question. This is where you select what environment you are doing it. And there's another question from, can we turn on something to save it automatically? Yes. Yes. There's an auto save option here, right here. So when you say auto save, it's just going to auto save for you. But you want to make sure that you have the path correct. Let me see in the chat box. Uh, well, Kafai is going to answer you for certificate. We do not give certificate, but she's going to write you explanation for that. Okay. folks, very so I hope you understand about the Visual Studio, how to install it, how to have extensions. And I wanted to figure out some of the very important things which beginner make mistake. Always choose language from here, always choose environment language from here, always make sure that you save the file before you run it, always make sure the path is correct. Path is going to create by itself. C++ is always update. Yeah, you're right. C++ just give you so many notifications that it's just want to update itself. And if you will read the history of the language was itself updated 6 or 7 times, 5 or 6 times, I think. So they have made a they have made major changes in the languages, in the from the past too. Okay, let's go ahead and go to our presentation. We talked about we setting up the code environment, and now we are creating a new project. So we talked about creating a project, how to save, go to create a new file, how to create new and add it with a name. Very important that we talked about. Saving the file is very important. Start writing code, and then we have running the code. I showed you how to run the code. Look for output at the more options at the bottom. Let me go ahead and more talk. So as I said, there are more options here. So problems, as we know that if your code is not working correctly, it's going to tell you problems. Terminal is how you are connected to the server. Are you are doing it online or are you doing it on your local machine? So it says PowerShell here. PowerShell of my computer is going to give you the name also. See, it's C user Mohit. So you can connect C++ to the server and you can make it changes in the application if it is some application on internet. So that's how you make connection to a terminal and you change it. But I'm using it locally. I'm not doing it any on server or any internet. So it's just C users here. And debug console is you don't have to know this, but this is when you have problems with output. It should give you more options here to debug the code and all those options. So you can see it from here too. So let's go further here. After the user interface, I'm going to talk about one of the very free available resource. I don't know if all of us we know about this, but this is C++ is okay to. I this is not a I can't understand this question. C++ is okay to connect to my SQL. I mean, I couldn't understand what are you going to ask. So please write it again. So I'm going to talk about, syntax and library codes. So we talked about we talked about what is the language, we talked about what we can do from the language. We talked about how to get uh, the environment, how to write the code, how to run the code. So we are going to see for some of the time we have left is what are codes, how do you write codes, and we're going to talk about syntax and library codes and some of one of the very good free resource available online you can use. And before I go ahead, I would like to tell you that you can also use Sublime Text. I don't know, when I was young, growing up in my undergraduate, and Sublime Text is a very big thing. I always did my practice at Sublime Text, but I don't know if people still do it. But this is also free version. You just go files, save files here in the pretty similar way. You save it on desktop and then you double click, run the file. It's going to open the answer with the answer of the code. And also the other thing I use, I for HTML I use Sublime Text. So if you like Sublime Text, it's also free available download software, and then you can download it. If you register it, if you want more features, you have to pay. Otherwise, it's free. I always use free version of it. So let's talk about some of the syntax and library code. So the free resource that I would like to talk about is W3 Schools. I don't know if you know about W3 Schools here, but folks, if you do not know about W3 Schools, just go there. It's absolutely free. You don't have to pay anything. You will see some advertisement on the right and left, but I don't mind doing that. You don't have to pay any money, and there are so many languages, so many resources. You can learn them from free. You can try code, you can practice code, and you can do so much more here. So as you can see, there's a HTML, CSS, JavaScript, SQL, so many things. I am in C++ tutorial, home, intro, get started. We pretty much talked about all of this. We are going to talk about syntax now. So as when we were writing this code, I told you that you saw this include, stream, using, int, all of these information. So we're going to talk about them right now. So the line, this is going to break down the example. I'm going to talk about one by one. So article include IOStream is a header file library. So as you know that we talked about, header library in the beginning, that C++ has a rich library. So why we use this? So that it is going to include all the functions from the library. So count is giving an example is output object count used in line 5 is example from the library. So if I, for example, if I do not, what do you think? So I'm going to take answers for this one too. What do you think? If I do not use these first two lines, and if I use count hello world and I run the code, do you think I'm going to get the output hello world in my output? Yes, yeah, yeah. This was easy one, but yes, error. Yeah, it will be error. It will not run because you know count. You are missing the command. Perfect, right answer. So I am missing the command. I have not included my library, which count is a member of. So count command, which gives the print to the output, I have not included this. So this is very important here to include these two, and there are more options here we're going to see for. It depends upon how complicated program you write or how complicated application you're going to develop. So that includes more and more examples like this. So if this is also in the presentation, if Kafaya is help us write this in the chat, so you can go to the same page here with me. It's going to explain you everything. So there's a using name std means we can use names for object and variable for the standard library. Very important, folks. If we cannot name the objects like age, phone number, if I cannot name the objects, and if I cannot use variable, C++ also is a language which is used for integer, variable, mathematical operations, loop, as we talked about loop in the beginning. More examples you will see in the future when you are going to learn. So if you do not use this, using name space std, you are not going to, use all those. You will not be able to use all those functions. And as you answered me correctly, that it is going to be as an error, or it will say code cannot run. A blank line, C++ ignores white space. Another thing that we appears in the program is in integer main. This is called a function. Any code inside this will be executed. So whatever code you want to run, you write this first, and you write in the curly brackets whatever code you want to run. So I want to run this code, so I have to write this first. So this gives me this send a message to the compiler that this is the code we need to run under the programming language. So this is what it means. I don't know if you know, if anybody of you know HTML. We also write HTML in the beginning. We write some code, body, and then we write integer, body, and all those things we write in the HTML when we make codes in HTML. So that's pretty much similar in that way. Someone wants to get to know about the recording of the webinar. Well, they are available on our YouTube channel, if I'm correct. Please correct me, Kafai, if I'm wrong. They are available online on our YouTube channel, and all of them, they are free. Please go there, and then you can get to see those recordings. Okay, so let's go further here. Please bookmark this page if you really want to learn. It's a very important information here, folks. Every C++ always note that every C++ statement ends with a semicolon. So if I'm writing a code, if I do not include semicolon, it's just going to give me, no, this is wrong, error, or code cannot be run. And I don't know if some of you have used Sublime Text. If you use it in Sublime Text as a C++, it is going to make the code incorrect as a red. So yeah, so this also talks about the body of integer, and then return 0 ends the main function. So this is end the main function. That code has been completed and has been run. And then there are more examples here, folks. There are more example of outputs. What are the output looks like? What are variables? What are data types, operators, strings, map? And then there's so break line, break continue if you want to write things in different lines. So it can be, there can be so, as we know that language is very vast and there could be so many things, but we are just talking about basics here. So we are not going a loop. I give you an example of, loop here. So, and functions are going to be on one of the, above expert level, not expert, I would say, but you need more practice to understand functions and how you develop them. I'm sorry, that was my cat. Are you okay? I'm sorry about that. So yeah, so this is a W3 schools example. So you can, uh, you know, just go to all these examples and just practice by yourself. And how do you practice? Every example, every page you go, they will give you an option of try it yourself. When you click on try it yourself, it's just going to open this in a new page. On the left hand side, you will see the code, and on the right hand side, you will see the output. So that is, how you do practice on W3 schools. And the last thing that I'm going to touch about is Sublime Text. So how Sublime Text works, if any one of you are interested in using Sublime Text. So it's going to show you the language C++ here. It depends how you save the file. So do you remember if we have language environment? Anushka asked us questions about this, but in Sublime Text, how you work, you write the code, you go to file, and you click save as. And when you click on save as, it's going to open a new window for you. And then it's give you a drop down here, and you can choose how do you want that code to be executed in what environment, means what language. So you say that you name the file, whatever you want to name the file, demo, or if you're testing or if you're making an application. So when you click on this, it's going to give you an option of how do you save the language in Sublime Text. Sublime Text also has a lot of options here, folks. You can choose from. As you can see, there is C++, Java, HTML. So for example, if I'm working now C++, so I will choose C++, and then I will go to that file and I will double click on that file, and it's going to run that file on my computer. How would I choose to run that file? So this is how Sublime Text works. I like using Sublime Text for HTML, as I said. So I write code here, I go to save file, save as HTML, and then I'm gonna, this is how it works. I'm gonna see some messages here. Let's see. We already talked about e-certificate, please. What is the use of, name main? I could not understand that. Please write this again. Missing the, yeah, that was right answer here. Let me go to the question answer. Do we need to install code runner extension on VS Code? Yes. Yes, I talked about this. We need two extensions. If you are running on the Virtual Studio Code, if you are running C++, and I think you need code runner for most of the languages that you run. Let me go back and show you. Actually, I can show you that. That's a good question because people make mistake there. So as you can see that, I have code runner. This is the code runner. If it will say install for you here, if you have not installed, and then C++. So to run C++ code, I have these two. And then, for example, if I want to run Java, and then I will see that, Java extension pack, and I don't know which one would you need. You have to, do some research and find out which would be. Let me go back here. So it will give you, let me get out of this. So it will give you installed and recommended like this. Okay, so I have a question here. Is C++ like Java? I know they do not use Java much anymore because it can be hacked so easily. Is C++? Well, to answer your question is, uh, I don't know if I would say they are similar in the way how you write code, but the coding library is different, and how you run the code is different. So that's the answer to your questions. And Java is mostly use also as where you need animation and where you need vivid, where you need like things moving and those kind of things. When you then you use Java. C++ is more of an application when you make phone application of like saving your information or giving you answers. I don't know if you have seen some of those uh, games that we play on trivia games. Trivia games is they are not Java, but they are like more basic. So they're like so they are stored in the memory. This is the right answer. This is you get points and all those things. So yeah, so is C++ a safer language because it can be hacked? So I cannot answer this. I'm sorry about this. I used to code in Java, but I cannot think if I would say it more safer. But that's a very good question. I'm gonna do some research and find it out by myself. Well, thank you so much, all of you folks. Thank you so much for joining us from so far and so close to all of us. And this was the basic class. So we just talked about why C++, what is C++, what are the main features of C++, what is the code running environment. We talked about Visual Studio. We talked about why how you install the Visual Studio, how you run the Visual Studio, how you write the code, how you run the code, what are the common mistakes what beginner make. They do not saving file is important, choosing language from here important, and then giving it a path, saving it, giving it as a name is important. And also want to make sure that you have extensions, that is very important. And then we also talked about sublime text, and in the end we talked about syntax. What are the common codes that we write, which is the library code, which are the other information, and then you go further to write code according to your mathematical logics. Maths creates a very, if you go further and if you decide to run code, just remember this, maths plays a very big role when you write loops, when you work on integers, when you work on applications, going back to the memory and remembering recursive. We talked about recursive in the beginning. So recursive, pointing, and variable, they play very important role when you go further in the learning journey of C++. Well, thank you so much, folks. That was the time we have today. If you like this webinar, we have a lot of more webinars on our calendar. Maybe Kafaya can write us the link for the calendar. Please go there, check out what we are doing. All of the programs that we do are free. If you are interested in continuous programs, so this is like a basic webinar. If you are interested in one language and that you want to do the continuous as a class, as a cohort, we do a program called Do Space Code Community. They do coding programs for a language for 8 weeks. I think it is 8 to 12 weeks. It changes. And then you can also write us suggestions for what classes you would like to see, or you want extended classes of some of the introduction classes you have done. For example, if you have done introduction to C++, you like it, you want to run more, you want to have a class about Visual Studio Code, please write us all your suggestions, feedback. We love to hear from you. Thank you so much. Kafaya, please also write us the email where they can ask us any questions and they can give us suggestions and feedback. And if you have any specific questions for me, you can write an email at hello@dospace.org, and you can write this. Oh, I'm sorry. I just wrote it to someone specific. That's my name, Mohit. So you can write an email at hello@dospace.org. You can say, this is me, this is my question, and this is question from Mohit from that webinar I attended, and I will try my level best to answer you and help you in any way that you need. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Mohit. Bye, everyone.
Bye.